Have you ever heard of a tribe that drinks blood because water burns them? On an island beyond every known shore, rain falls red. Springs boil the skin. The gray-skinned tribe survives not by rivers, but by the sea. Children are raised on the blood of fish and dew pulled from coral. Sweet water is cursed. Only salt nourishes. But one child was born under a silent moon. She never cried. She listened to waves, to wind, to silence. When the old chieftain spoke of the time of clear rivers, the girl asked, "If clear water once gave life, why does the sea hush when I dream of it?" That night, the tide did not roar. The sea listened. At sunrise, the tribe gathered in silence. No chants, no fire, only blades slicing open fish, blood poured into carved stone bowls. Each drop was sacred. Elders murmured thanks to the sea. The child stepped forward, her hand reaching. An elder stopped. Her. Not until the salt names you. She lowered her eyes, but did not retreat. The sea wind brushed her cheek like breath. Nearby, old men ground seaweed into dust. Mixed with ash and blood, it became the mark, a smear worn on the forehead. To forget freshwater, the people feared remembering more than death. Behind the village, 5 dark pillars rose, built from coral, bone, and ash. These were the burners of memory. Every full moon, the tribe cast offerings into the flames, stones that echoed, drawings of rivers, shells that sang. Memory tempts, said the chieftain. Temptation opens the gate. The child watched the fire consume what the tribe feared. She saw not danger, but sorrow. That night, she dreamed of a blue pool, glowing beneath moss. She touched it. It did not hurt. When she awoke, her fingers smelled of wet leaves. The sky darkened, not with storm, but with blessing.it rain during the festival of teeth. Not clear, not soft, but red. The tribe danced beneath it, arms raised, faces lifted. This was the rain that fed the salt. Elders drew circles on children's backs, anointing them. The cliffs wept streaks of crimson, but the child stood still. The rain touched her and slid away. No mark, no stain. She is not chosen, someone whispered. The chieftain said nothing. Her eyes, white with age, turned toward the child's silence. Beyond the thorn wall, near the eastern cliffs, she found it. A hollow in stone where no one dared look. Clear water shimmered within, still and glowing. The red rain had not reached it. She dipped her fingers. No pain, only a pulse, soft as breath. Shapes moved below the surface. A spiral, a hand, a face. She did not flee. She listened. The pool whispered in no tongue she knew. And yet, she understood. Remember us. And she did. The pool rippled as if breathing. From beneath, a spiral turned slowly. Ancient and full of memory, the girl leaned closer. The water whispered again, not in sound, but in shape. She saw images. A tower of salt falling, people drinking from rivers, skin cracking under light. These were not her memories. They belonged to something older. Her hand trembled, but she did not pull away. When she looked up, the sky had changed. The red clouds had scattered. In their place, gray silence. And then, a mark appeared on her wrist. A spiral, drawn not in paint, but in light. She returned to the village without speaking. The mark on her wrist glowed faintly. Hidden under wrapped, the fish altar, she refused the blood offering. Gasps. Murmurs. Ganra turned her head. The sea has not named you, an elder warned. Without the salt, you do not belong. The girl lifted her wrist. The spiral shimmered, soft as dawn. The crowd stepped back. No one spoke. Ganra stood, feeling with blind hands. This is not salt's gift, she whispered. This is from before. That night, no one sang. A circle of stones. 13 elders gathered, cloaks drawn. The spiral returns, said one. It brought the floods before. It can bring them again. We buried that power, said another. We burned its name. Ganra spoke last. If it has awakened, the island will stir. The sea held that night. Waves struck the cliffs like drums to eye in the girl's hut. The spiral glowed brighter. It pulsed with every heartbeat. Her dreams filled with waves that spoke. The rivers are not gone. They are waiting. At dawn, the girl followed the mark. It tingled, pulling her toward the forest wall. Brambles scratched her arms, but parted where she stepped. No one had entered this place in generations. Roots twisted like old hands. Stones were carved with forgotten words. At the end, a cave opened, low and breathing. Wind moved like a voice inside. She entered. The spiral on her wrist pulsed once, then stopped. In the dark, a figure waited. The cave was warm and dry. Walls glittered with ancient salt crust. Glowing faintly, at the center sat a woman, skin like rock, eyes like tides. "You carry the memory," she said. "You are not the first." She poured clear water into a stone bowl. The girl flinched, then paused. The water did not hiss. It welcomed her. "Drink," the woman said, "and see what was stolen." The girl bent forward. Her reflection shimmered, then changed. She no longer saw herself. She saw the island as it once was. She drank, not with lips, but with memory. The island opened itself, layer by layer. She saw forests where ash now falls, rivers glowing under starlight. People danced beneath waterfalls. Children drank from spring hollows, then came the spiral. A symbol etched in the land that it brought great knowledge and great fire. The rivers turned to steam. The sea grew red. The people, once thriving, begged the water to return, and in their fear, they carved the first banishment. "It was not the water that cursed them," said the salt woman. "It was the forgetting. The spiral had a name once, but they burned it, buried it in ash, sealed it with red stone. They feared what it could return. But now the mark had returned, not to destroy, but to remind." The girl felt warmth rise in her palms. She looked down. A second spiral had appeared. This one pulsed with blue light. The salt woman stood. Her body faded into mist, as if she was memory herself. The girl stepped outside. The island no longer looked the same. The wind sang in strange tones. Leaves shimmered as if wet again. Her footsteps awakened carvings in stone. The spiral lit wherever she walked. The earth was remembering. And as she walked back to the tribe, the clouds began to gather. When she reached the village, the sea had already risen, not in violence, but in voice. Waves pulsed in rhythm, echoing the spiral's beat. The villagers gathered, their eyes wide, afraid and unsure. "She brings the old water," one whispered. Ganra stepped forward. Her blind eyes turned toward the sea. "No," she said. "She brings the truth." And the waves crashed once, softly. That night, the girl sat alone, not as a child, but as a keeper. She drew the spiral again, not on stone, but in the sand. It did not vanish. The sea swept over it and left it whole. She whispered her own name into the dark, not the name given by the tribe, a name she had seen in the water, and from the deep, something whispered it back. The sky, long silent, broke open in stillness. But it was not the red rain. This was soft, clear, a forgotten blessing. The people did not dance. They watched, hands lifted, faces tilted to the unknown. Drops kissed their skin and left no sting. The girl stepped into the center, spiral glowing on her arm. "Not as a mark of power, but of memory," Ganra whispered. "The sea no longer punishes. It remembers." Beneath their feet, the ground softened, and green returned. Old paths were uncovered. Beneath thorn and dust, the wells waited. The people came with cupped hands, hesitant, reverent. The girl stood beside them. "This water is not new," she said. "It has always been here. You simply forgot its name." They drank and wept, not from pain, but from memory. The wells sighed. Stone carvings long buried began to shine. Symbols of rivers, birds, and wind. The island, it seemed, was watching. That night, the girl returned alone. The sacred pool shimmered, not with light, but with breath that a shape rose. Neither man nor beast, but something river dash-born that it did not speak. Yet the girl understood. "You remembered us," it said, through wind and water. The spiral on her arm faded, as if its task had ended. The figure bowed, then vanished into the ripples. At dawn, the people gathered, not for ritual, but for remembering point one by one. They spoke, not titles of salt, but names of water, names of streams, of distant springs, of rivers that once sang. The girl said nothing. Her name had been spoken by the sea. Ganra wept, not from blindness, but from seeing. The sea no longer raged. The cliffs stood quiet, and deep within the earth, a sound, soft, rhythmic, like breath, The island was no longer caged by fear. It had exhaled. The girl sat by the shore. She reached into the tide. The water did not rise. To meet her, it waited. For the first time, they understood one another, and no more punishment. Only memory and peace. That morning, ash fell again. But it was not the choking veil of old. It was light, drifting, as if bidding farewell. The elders stepped outside, watching it descend. No fear, no curse. This is not punishment, said Ganra. It is memory. Letting go, the girl gathered a handful, mixed it with water, drew a final spiral in the dust. The ash dissolved, and the ground beneath it turned green. For the first time, the island exhaled in full. Along the old path, stones once worn smooth began to pulse with markings, spirals, waves, stars, all returning. The people followed the girl, their feet aligning with the ancient trail. This was once our story, she said, and it waited to be retold. As they walked, the carvings lit, not with fire, but with breath. Even the trees bowed, shedding old bark like skin. The island was writing again. They reached the old cliff altar. Once stained with fish blood, it now stood clean, bleached by sea. Our no offerings were placed. No knives drawn. Instead, the people brought water from the pool, from the well. From memory, they poured it gently. The stone drank. The spiral reformed in soft moss. A sign not of fear, but of reunion. Ganra stood at the edge of the village. The sea breeze pulled at her robes. The girl approached. No words were exchanged, just a clasped hand. And a spiral drawn in air. Ganra smiled. Her journey, like the tribes, had returned full circle. She turned to face the sea. The wind carried her whisper, like smoke returning to sky. It was always about remembering. In the forest's heart, water flowed where none had flowed for generations. Not a trickle, but a river. It moved through stone, curling around roots, humming a song no one remembered, yet all knew. Children splashed. Elders knelt. The girl simply watched. The island has spoken, she said, and we have listened. The first river was no longer a story. It was home. The girl awoke before dawn. Her spiral no longer glowed. It rested, etched faint beneath her skin, like a dream remembered, but no longer needed. Outside, the river murmured. Birds called across the treetops. She stepped barefoot through soft earth. Each stone she passed now bore a spiral, not carved. Grown, the memory had taken root. The tribe no longer spoke of curses. They spoke of beginnings. The children asked, was there really a time when water hurt us? Elders smiled. Yes, they said, but not because water changed. We did. They carved stories on a smooth stones, not warnings, but songs. And they placed them in the river, so that even if forgotten, they would return. The sea had turned quiet, no longer red, but it remained, not as punishment, but as witness that on the shoreline, nets were now woven not with hooks, but with open spaces. The people no longer feared the tide. They walked it at dusk, offering silence. The girl whispered to the waves, and they answered, not with roar, but with rhythm. She returned to the cliff. Alone, there, she drew the final spiral, not on stone, not on sand, but in the air. Her finger moved slowly, tracing wind and memory. The spiral shimmered, then faded. She smiled. The story was no longer hers to carry. It belonged to the island again. The girl grew older. Others came after her. The spiral faded from skin, but not from story. The water stayed clear. The wells never closed. Yet deep beneath the roots, under stone and bone, the old marks sleep, waiting, not to be feared, but to be remembered. For islands do not forget. They wait, and sometimes they whisper.